I almost always flashed back to my time in the desert at times like these. I suppose that it is reasonable given that I am staring through the scope at my target. Only now my target isn't a terrorist or even a criminal. In fact, in this scenario, it is me who is the criminal. My target is a balding, sweaty, slightly overweight banker who at this very moment is plowing the field of one of his underlings from the bank. Why is he in my sights? Well, that is because I have a contract to end his life. Someone, and I have no idea who, took out a contract on this man, paid in cryptocurrency and all organized through the dark web. I will never meet the person who took out the contract, and I have no connection whatsoever with the target or his lover. By the time any law enforcement is alerted, I will be long gone, and I am very good at making sure that I don't leave any traces that could point back to me. I watched through my scope for a while longer. I'm not a voyeur, but I like to ensure that I get a clean kill, so I need to wait until that certain moment when he holds still. I also think it's poetic that his moment of death should coincide with that moment that the French call la petite mort. It always amuses me. I panned my scope around a little, taking in what little of the room I could see through the window. There was nobody else other than the copulating couple. I looked at her. She was quite a prize. The contract had specifically said that she must not be harmed, and she wouldn't be, at least not physically. I could not predict what having her lover's head explode at the point he emptied his into her would do to her psyche. I think having intimacy might be a trigger for her in the future. I took a second to look around me. It does no good to get so fixated on your target that you yourself are in danger. I don't have a spotter or backup. It's just me, so I must ensure that my position is secure. And it is. I am on the rooftop of a building across the street from the hotel the cheating couple is using. Back to the scope, and I can tell he is close to finishing. I settle once more, checking that nothing has changed with the conditions, and, at the moment, he arches his back, shouting out his climax. I pull the trigger. I am moving before she starts to scream, and by the time any law enforcement is around, I am already several miles away. I store my gear in one of the several storage locations I have around the city, each in a different name and prepaid in cash, before heading home. During my journey, I once again contemplate how I got here. How is it that I am now a hitman, specializing almost exclusively in taking out cheating spouses? Well, the shooting part is easy. I was always good with a rifle. From being a young boy and hunting on the farm, I have had an affinity with guns. Particularly rifles, which meant I could make shots that astounded everyone else. It was almost instinctive. When I signed up for the Marines and subsequently in sniper school, they taught us all about trajectories, wind resistance, ballistics, and all kinds of other science. I learned it all. I just didn't need it. I could make a shot by eyeball that many snipers couldn't make even with all their calculations and computers. It was just a natural, instinctive ability. There was no doubt that I would have gone on to great things in the Marines. But then something happened that changed my life forever, and was the reason why I specialized in cheating spouses. You guessed it. A cheating spouse. Gabrielle was a girl of French descent, a petite, dark-haired woman we met in a bar in the town when we were taking some R&R. She was lively and engaging, and had a body that engendered all kinds of impure thoughts. She was with us for the entire evening, and I and my best friend Bobby took turns in dancing with her. By closing time, it was obvious that there was something between her and Bobby, and with a rueful grin I did the only thing a best friend could do. I wished him luck, and returned to the base alone. After that, every time we went into town, they were inseparable. I would either start the evening as a third wheel, trying to find my own company as the night wore on, or occasionally she would bring a friend to keep me company while she and Bobby amused themselves with each other. I was surprised, though, when after only knowing her for 3 months, Bobby came to me to show me the ring he had bought for her. Wow, Bobby, that's some rock. Are you sure you are ready for this? He grinned at me. When you know, he said, affecting the pose of an old wise man. "I'm not going to let her get away." The look in her eye when Bobby got down on one knee in the bar that night gave me pause for thought. I had expected that she would be excited and happy, but there was an instant of calculation on her face before she showed the expected emotion. I didn't say anything to Bobby because I didn't want to spoil his moment, but I did wonder. I arranged the bachelor party since I was the best man, and even though I say so myself, it was epic. There were all the ingredients. The 3 Bs were present. Buddies, half the platoon turned out booze. We had to pour Bobby back into his bunk that night, and he had little memory of what had gone on, and broads. Of course, there were strippers. It was mandatory. I did, however, make sure to protect Bobby's virtue and made sure that nothing untoward happened with or to him. I had previously spoken with Gabrielle when I was organizing the party to ask her for boundaries. If she had said no strippers, there would have been none. I didn't want Bobby divorced before he was even married. The wedding was a small affair, with her parents, some of her friends, and a few of the guys in our platoon. I was, as I said, best man. 2 months later, we were deployed back into the desert on a 3-month tour. I will remember that patrol for the rest of my life. We were tasked with searching a village where we thought there may have been some insurgents. I, with my spotter, had already scouted and found a location where I could provide overwatch for the guys. It wasn't a perfect situation as there were some places I still couldn't see, but it was the best available. Bobby had seemed out of sorts all day. He seemed overly eager to get out there and was brusque with everyone, even me, which was unusual. When I asked him what his problem was, he just grinned at me and said he was just eager to get going. Bobby never made it back from that patrol. I didn't see what happened as his position wasn't visible from my observation point, but his team told me that when they had made contact with the enemy, Bobby had just stood up and shouted something like, "Come on, you bastards," and rushed towards them firing his M16 from the hip like some kind of James Cagney gangster. He didn't make it 10 feet. As his best friend, I was tasked with packing up his belongings to send back to the U.S., and it was then I found the letter. "Dear Bobby, I know this is a coward's way, but I need to tell you that I have been seeing someone else, and we have fallen in love. I am leaving you so that we can be together. I want you to know that I did love you, but our time apart has shown me that I was not really in love with you. And you deserve more, so it is better that we part ways. And you can find someone to love you as much as you deserve. Please don't think too badly of me. John says that you have another month of your tour left, so by the time you get back I will have moved out of our house. I am not going to ask for anything from you in the divorce, and would love to count you as a friend if you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Warmest regards, Gabrielle." "That selfish woman," I shouted after reading the letter. Now I understood Bobby's behavior, and I resolved there would be payback. I was detailed to accompany Bobby's body back to the U.S., cutting my tour short. We deplaned the coffin, and Gabrielle came over, tears streaming down her face. She went to put her hand on the coffin, and I spoke. "Don't you dare, you traitorous woman!" She stepped back, stunned, and it was then I noticed the officer who had accompanied her. Colonel John Edwards. "What the hell?" He began putting his arm around her shoulders. "How dare you? How dare I? This traitorous woman dropped a Dear John letter on a soldier on active duty just before a patrol. What the hell did she think was going to happen when I find out who the low-life scum who she—" "Stand down, soldier!" Colonel Edwards snarled. "I didn't know she had sent him a letter. I told her to wait and we—" "You?" I asked incredulously. "You stepped out with one of your men's wives?" "It just—" he began. My first punch caught him in the throat, bringing him to his knees. My kick to his groin took him all the way to the ground, and I punched him 4 more times in the face while he was on the ground before the MPs got to me. My greatest satisfaction was that we were both court-martialed. He for conduct unbecoming and me for striking a superior officer. I spent a year in military prison for the assault before being dishonorably discharged, and he just got kicked out of the service, losing his pension. It took me another year to find her. She had moved to Canada and was living with a French-Canadian businessman. I had no idea what had happened to Colonel Edwards, but he had got lost along the way. I did consider just shooting her from a distance. It would have been so easy. No security, no overwatch, just a woman out in public, like shooting fish in a barrel, but then she would never know what hit her, nor why. I needed this to be more personal, needed her to understand who had killed her and why. In the end, she made it so easy for me. She was out dancing with some friends, clearly still being unfaithful, as the man kissing her was not her French-Canadian businessman. I watched from the bar as he whispered something in her ear, and she nodded before they headed toward the exit. I took myself out of the front door and walked around the bar. I had an idea of where they were going and wasn't disappointed as I saw them heading toward an SUV in the car park. I waited by my car to see if they were going to drive away somewhere, but when he opened the back door of the SUV, I knew it was going to happen here and now. After checking for anyone or any surveillance, I moved closer until I could clearly see Gabrielle, or rather her back, leaning out of the car door as the man was with her, positioned over the seat of the car. I didn't want to kill the guy. I had no gripe with him, so a quick chokehold later, and he was unconscious on the floor. It took Gabrielle a few seconds to realize that the thing had stopped and extricated herself from the car and turned to face me, looking down the barrel of my Glock 9. Her eyes widened as she recognized me, and she opened her mouth to speak. I beat her to it. "Bobby says hello." I pulled the trigger twice, putting 2 in her chest, and she was thrown back into the car. I was gone before the sound of the shots brought anyone out of the bar and back across the border into the U.S. less than 4 hours later. Avenging Bobby had given me an idea. Surely there were any number of people who are, at this very minute, being cheated on. Some of them will want to reconcile, others to divorce. But there will be some who want a more permanent solution to a cheating spouse, and I have the skill set to make that happen. And so I became a hitman, specifically one who targets those who step outside their marriages. It was easy work. Overall, they were ordinary people, had little or no idea they were being targeted, and had no personal protection. I had been plying my trade for about 4 years and made quite a lot of money when I met Juliana. Juliana was the finance manager at a car dealership I had visited when I wanted to buy a new car. She was bright and clever and interesting to talk to. It didn't hurt that she was almost 6 feet tall in her heels, with legs that went on for miles, long jet black hair, and a back to die for. We hit it off instantly, and within half an hour she had accepted a date with me. I won't bore you with the dance that was the courtship. Suffice it to say that 18 months later, Juliana and I married in a lavish wedding with over 200 guests, made up of her friends and family, my parents, and a number of my old Marine buddies who were still speaking to me. As far as the world and Juliana were concerned, I was a successful money manager, spending a lot of my working time on my computer from home, but having to go on regular business trips around the country as required. This was the perfect cover for my real work. Life with Juliana was good. She was supportive of my money management work, even when I had to go away on business. She always welcomed me back with bedroom sessions where she was wild and uninhibited. Even when I was home, we had intimacy at least 4 to 5 times per week, and sometimes much more. She never went out with the girls. Although she had a lot of friends, we always went out as a couple. If we went dancing, she would accept, with my blessing, dances from other men, but always made sure that their and her behavior passed the husband test. I never once doubted that she loved me, nor her. Contracts came in via the dark web, and I was paranoid when taking them. I would never meet in person, dealing only via the web, would require irrefutable proof of infidelity, and they would never know when or where the contract would be fulfilled. Money was paid into a virtual escrow account. Once the contract was fulfilled, the money could be released by the client. The money could be returned to the client by me if for some reason I could not complete the contract, but so far that had never happened. Since I had no connection at all to any of the victims, law enforcement never got close to me. And because I used virtual currency, even if it could be shown that the person taking out the contract had paid a lump sum out, its destination was completely secure. I killed far more men than women, roughly on a ratio of 10 to 1. When a woman gets cheated on by a man, she wants him dead. More often than not, when a man gets cheated on by a woman, he wants the man that did him dead. Go figure. There were exceptions, of course, but I had no conscience. It was a job. People were willing to pay me and pay me well for my services, and cheaters deserved everything they got. And so, life rolled on. Juliana and I had our first child after we had been married 3 years, and our second only 18 months later. They had a good, stable family life growing up, and were now both at college, which was all paid for. Juliana was a bit of an empty nester and had gone back to work at the car dealership. I worked from home most days with occasional trips out. I had decided that I was going to retire. 1 or 2 more contracts would complete the retirement fund I had been building, and to be honest, was getting tired of the game. I looked at the bulletin board that I used to pick up work and saw there were 2 contracts available, one in the neighboring state and one right across the country. I decided that the pay for the local contract would enable me to call it quits and clicked on the job to start the process for taking the contract. The target was a man by the name of Peter Miller. A picture was enclosed. There was a file listing that he was a group insurance salesman who covered 3 states, including ours, and that he traveled extensively throughout his area. He was married to Janine and had 3 young children, Paul, Mary, and Siobhan. I had private investigator reports showing his liaisons with 4 different women. He was currently on the road, and his itinerary brought him to within 50 miles of where I lived. He would be staying in a hotel for a week. There was no information about him having a woman this close, but it was expected that he had one and that they would be meeting up during his stay. The contract was to watch his hotel, and if he showed up with a woman who was not his wife, to check him out, permanently. Attached to the contract were pictures of the man himself, his wife, and the 3 kids. I always wondered why they bothered including the pictures of the kids, but they always did. Whoever had compiled the dossier had done their homework. They knew not only what hotel he was staying in, but what room. I Googled the hotel and found that the room he had booked was on the 5th floor on the east side. A quick look at Google Earth showed me that there was a construction site not on the block opposite, but 1 block over. If I could get onto a high enough floor of that unfinished building, I should have an unimpeded view of the east side of the hotel, since the buildings directly opposite the hotel were only 3 stories high. I have to go on a trip next week, I told Juliana on the Friday evening. I'll be leaving Monday morning and back Thursday, possibly Friday. She looked up over the book she was reading. I thought you were finished with those, she said, not complaining, just asking. This may be the last one, depending on how things go. There may be another if this one doesn't live up to expectations. She nodded, then grinned. That means we have all weekend together, she said. We didn't spend all weekend in bed. After an amazing Friday night, we went out on Saturday, did some mundane stuff, and then ate at our favorite restaurant. Saturday night and most of Sunday was spent in bed. I left the house Monday morning and took my car to the airport. Once parked, I walked about a mile to a storage unit I had nearby and climbed into a nondescript car that I kept there for this purpose. It was a gray Toyota sedan, instantly forgettable. It was registered to a fake ID, which was strong enough to pass LEO inspection, but would not stand up to deep scrutiny. I was in position on the 7th floor of the construction site, with my spotting scope pointing at his window when the target entered the room. He pottered around for a few minutes and then picked up his phone, which had apparently rung. After a brief conversation, he left his room. It was just after 12 midday. I didn't bother to follow him. I knew he would be back, so I settled in to wait. The construction site was currently closed for some reason or other, so I had no fear of discovery. It was after 6 p.m. when he returned to his room. in an obvious hurry, went into the bathroom to shower. I observed him as he returned to the bedroom. He was nothing special. The shower water must have been cold because there was nothing much to see hanging between his legs and his body, while lean wasn't particularly inspiring. I often wondered what attracted women to men like this, and I decided he must have a good line in chat because it certainly wasn't his physical attributes. After another 30 minutes, he was dressed and then he headed out. I ate some food and settled down to wait for his return. I was certain he would be back, and probably with some woman. I would take pictures to prove his infidelity, then put a bullet through his skull. There was nothing in the contract about killing or sparing the woman, so I wouldn't kill her. While not averse to killing cheating women, I didn't know this woman was a cheating whore. She might just be some single girl falling for this sleazeball's line. I would have no information, and so she would live. It was after midnight when the light finally came on in the room again, and I looked again through my scope. I saw my target enter the room with a tall, dark-haired woman. As soon as they were through the door, the woman pushed him up against the door and dropped to her knees in front of him. I couldn't see what exactly was going on since she had her back to me. I could see him from the torso down due to my position a couple of stories above theirs. But I wasn't worried. They would move further into the room eventually. I could see her head bobbing backwards and forwards, and within a couple of minutes, he put his hands on the back of her head and started moving his hips. Still locked together, they started stripping off the rest of their clothes while moving towards the bed. By the time they reached the bed, she was left in her underwear, and he was naked. He pushed her back onto the bed and started kissing down her body. From this angle, I knew that if I put a bullet in his head, it would travel through into her, and so I held off. There would be plenty of opportunity, and besides, I rather enjoyed timing the moment of the kill to coincide with his orgasm. The ultimate mind burst. From this angle, I could only see the tops of both of their heads, but then she obviously came, throwing her head back, and I moved the scope to look at her face. It took every bit of control I had not to pull the trigger at that instant. Instead, I clicked the camera, which was linked to my scope, and took a digital photo. For the next 3 hours, I took photos and videos of the couple as they cavorted around the bedroom. Eventually, they settled into bed together for a final session of lovemaking before settling down for the night to sleep. When the lights went out, I sat back, my heart hammering and my thoughts racing. I opened the picture I had first taken through my scope on my phone and looked at it. The woman had arched her back and her eyes were wide open. I zoomed the picture in on that face. Looking into those eyes, those beautiful eyes, the eyes of my wife, Juliana. Thoughts raced through my head. I couldn't complete the hit now. One of the safest things about what I did was that I had no connection to any of the victims or their partners. If I killed either or both now, the first person the police would want to talk to would be me. My alibi wouldn't stand up to that scrutiny. Also, I was in no shape to decide what to do about Juliana. Right now, I was so angry I could easily have put a bullet in her without thinking twice about it. But I knew that the anger would fade, and I had to think of my children and not only myself. I had to think long and hard about how to deal with her. I would have to live with my decision for the rest of my life. My other thought was that if I returned the contract, someone else might pick it up and be less picky about whether they killed the asshole's partner or not. I also had to consider if this was a setup. Had someone set me up to see my wife cheating with this guy to try and flush me out? I wasn't concerned about law enforcement. They wouldn't have put either of them in my sights, as for all they know I could have taken a shot tonight, but there may be someone else involved. Maybe someone connected to one of my earlier contracts who wanted revenge. No. I needed to fulfill this contract, but do it in such a way as to make it look accidental or natural. No follow-up from LEO, so no blowback on us. Juliana, I would deal with it later. I packed all my kit away and took it all back to the lockup. I wouldn't be using it for this job. While I was in the lockup, I picked up some extra electronic kit, and returning to the hotel, I located both their cars and put a GPS tracker on them. The next morning, after they had both left, Juliana went back to my house and he to go do whatever he was supposed to be doing here. I entered the hotel and using an electronic keycard spoofer, broke into his room. I searched the room, finding nothing unexpected. In his luggage, there were some blood pressure medications and also some Viagra. I then installed a couple of hidden cameras. I had 4 days to fulfill this contract. Since I had told Juliana I wouldn't be back until Thursday or Friday, I didn't need to interact too much with her, although I knew she would call me at some point today. I also booked a room at the hotel using my fake ID. Things would be easier if I could be legitimately in the hotel. I looked around and found that they had security cameras only at the entrance and in the lifts. There were none on the stairs nor in the corridors outside the rooms. Throughout the day, I watched their movements while making my own preparations. Juliana was at work. Then she went to her gym, then back home. After a while, his tracker showed me that he was heading in the direction of my house, and I swore to myself that if she allowed that guy into my home, I would kill them both on principle and screw the consequences. Thankfully, he didn't come within 5 blocks of my house. Just after 6 p.m., Juliana called me. "Hey, babe," she said. "Hi, honey, I missed you last night. I thought you were going to call." "Sorry. I fell asleep in front of the TV, and by the time I woke up, it was too late," she said without pause. "I figured as much. That's why I didn't disturb you," I said, clenching my fist. This was the first time I had ever known Juliana to lie to me. Obviously, there had been others, but I had just not known about them. "How are things going with your meeting?" she asked. There was an unexpected complication. Someone unexpectedly turned up in the meeting, and it has raised some issues. I'm certain I'll be able to close the deal, but it may take a little longer and be a bit messier. Having said that, though, once this is done, I won't be traveling anymore, I said. "So you'll be coming back Friday then, rather than Thursday?" I could swear I heard a smile in her voice. "You don't sound too disappointed," I replied a little acidly. "Oh, no, not at all. I was just happy that you said that this is the last time you will be traveling. If an extra day on this trip means it's the last, then it's worth it," she said. Good recovery woman, I thought, but instead asked, "So what are you up to tonight?" "I just got back from the gym, so I'm going to veg out in front of the TV and have an early night. I have to work too, you know," she joked. "Well, remember what my mother always told me," I joked. "If you are not in bed by 11, you have to go home," she laughed. "I'll call you tomorrow evening. I miss you. Good night." I'm not sure if she noticed that I just hung up without saying anything further. My last call was to a friend of mine. He was a chemist and occasionally supplied me when my preferred method of killing was not appropriate. Sometimes people wanted things to look more natural. It normally puts the price up, but in this instance, I would stand the loss. Asshole was back in his hotel by the time I returned, having seen my friend, and when I logged into the camera, I could hear his phone ringing. "Hey, Jules," I heard him say. I winced. Juliana hated her name to be shortened in any way. If this was her and she was allowing him to call her Jules, it made things worse. Strange how little things like that matter. The conversation continued. "No, I was late back. Give me an hour to get ready and I'll meet you downstairs. Shall we say 7:30? Yes, looking forward to it. I am so going to make you squeal tonight. I'll make you forget that lame cuck you married," he said gleefully. No, Juliana. I didn't mean it. I know he isn't. No, baby, please. Julie." He looked at his phone. I smiled grimly to myself. It sounded like he had talked his way out of a night's passion. My phone rang. It was Juliana. "Hey, babe, what's up?" I said, surprised. "Nothing. I just remembered I didn't say I love you when we spoke earlier. I just wanted to make sure you knew." She sounded a little upset. "Are you okay?" "You don't sound right," I asked. "I'm fine. I just miss you is all." I heard her phone beep to tell her she had a call waiting. I looked at my computer and could see that the guy was on his phone. I guessed it was him calling her. "Why don't we chat for a while then?" I said. "It will be almost like I'm there." I waited to see what decision she would make. Carry on chatting to me or go back to talking to the guy so he can charm her into another night of intimacy? She chose wrong. No, I'm just being silly. Listen, my mom is trying to ring me. I just wanted to tell you I love you. Good night. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. Night, Jules. I hung up the phone. I wonder if she even noticed. Back in the guy's room, I heard his phone ring, and he smiled as he picked up. Hey, babe. Yes, I'm really sorry. I know you don't like it when I talk smack about him. It's just my insecurities. I just want to be the best lover for you and know that I am making you feel as good as you make me. No, I won't. Okay, tomorrow then? How about I take you to dinner at Archie's? I'll book a table for 7? Yes, I know, I'm sorry about earlier. Yes, I love you too, Juliana. Night. I love you too, I thought. That meant that she had told him she loved him. Was that just a reflex way to end a call, or did she really love this guy? I would find out tomorrow. Shortly after, I heard him call down to room service and order a meal and a couple of beers. I decided that it was time to make my move. I waited for the room service to be delivered and for the hotel employee to leave. Just as he sat down to eat his meal, I knocked on his door. I stood back so he couldn't see me through the spy hole, but I don't think he even looked. He opened the door and looked at me. The surprise on his face as he stared down the barrel of my silenced Glock was priceless. Evening, Peter. May I come in? His mouth worked for a moment with no noise, but I moved forward and he instinctively backed away. The door closed behind me. What do you want? I have about $500 in my wallet. You can have that and... Nothing so crass. I just want a nice friendly chat. You see, my employer, I believe you are familiar with her, your wife Janine, has asked me for some answers. And you, my fine fellow, are going to give me those answers. I have a lot of information already, but there are some blanks to be filled in, so if you lie to me, I will know, and I will shoot you. He paled. I really don't want to shoot you. It's so much like hard work, and your good wife would much rather just divorce and humiliate you. Financially, you are worth more to her alive than dead, and she does think that your kids would miss you if you were dead, but she wants the full, whole, and unvarnished truth about your dirty little affairs. Make no mistake, she is going after each one of the women you are cheating with and will tell their husbands what they have been up to. If you tell me everything fully and completely right now, I will leave this room without having to clean up your corpse. Does that sound reasonable? I asked. I picked up a bottle of beer, popped the top, and handed it to him. I popped the other one and took a swig. I grimaced. Is that the best this place does? I asked. He looked at me, a gleam of hope in his eyes. So, if I tell you everything you want to know, you won't shoot me? He asked. I will not. I will take my leave and let you continue with your life. I would suggest that you call your wife once I have left and maybe, just maybe, if you grovel enough, she might even take you back, if only for your kids' sake. I indicated one of the chairs. He sat. What do you want to know? He asked. There are 4 women I know pretty much everything I need to know about. I rattled off their names and where they lived. His mouth dropped open. I also know that there is a woman here in town, too. I believe her name is Juliana, and she works at a car dealership. He nodded. Your wife didn't know much about her, so let's start there. Tell me everything about Juliana, how you met, how long you have been with her. Everything. He started slowly, but told his story as he sipped the bottle of beer I had handed him. He had met Juliana about 4 months previously. He had been visiting the car dealership selling his insurance, and he had spoken with her in her role as a finance officer. She was beautiful, charming, with an absolutely stunning body, and he decided right then and there that he had to have her. They had a meeting that lasted most of the morning, and so he had invited her to lunch. He was surprised that she accepted so readily, and was even more surprised when, after lunch, she suggested he might like to take her out for dinner that evening, since her husband was out of town on business. They ended up back at his hotel that night, and she had given him a night he would never forget. He started to describe what she had done for him, but I cut him short. I didn't need those kinds of details. "So, how often did you meet up with Juliana?" I asked. "We met up about 8 or 9 times. Each time her husband was away, she would call me up, and if I was able to work my schedule to get over here, I would do. I even canceled dates with my other girls if she called. She was far better than any of them," he said with a grin. He was getting into his story and had momentarily forgotten his situation. He gulped the rest of his beer down and then looked at the empty bottle. "Can I get another?" he asked, indicating the minibar. Slowly, "It would be a shame for me to have to shoot you for a misunderstanding. We seem to be bonding somewhat." He grinned again and went over to get himself another beer. "Want one?" he asked, and I shook my head. He returned to his seat. "So, you say that Juliana made all the moves. Do you know if this was something she did a lot?" "I don't think so, but I'm certain I wasn't her first. There was no guilt. She wouldn't let me say anything bad about her husband, though. In fact, I screwed up tonight and called him a cuck, and she tore me a new one. Otherwise, she would be here now." "Seems strange that would upset her given what she was doing," I said contemplatively. "She compartmentalizes. As far as she is concerned, the Juliana who is the loving wife of her husband, I don't even know his name. She refused to talk about him, is a completely different Juliana that comes over to me. She doesn't see that there is anything to be guilty about since they are two different people." I'm not sure her husband would see it that way. Mentally, she may feel like two different people, but physically they are one person. It is the mouth he kisses that she wraps around you. I take it you don't use protection? "No, never. She said we didn't need it. She said she was on the pill," he said. "And what about STDs? Given you are messing with half of the country, did she never even consider that she might bring something nasty home to hubby?" "I'm not sure if it ever even occurred to her. I do get tested regularly, though, and I am clean," he said. That was a small comfort, but I still made a mental note to get myself tested. Peter winced and put his hand to his chest. "Something the matter?" I asked solicitously. "Indigestion. I haven't eaten, and the beers." He absently rubbed his left arm, and then he gasped. His face went purple, and sweat started to roll off him. He grabbed his chest now with both hands. "Help me," he said. "Peter, look at me," I said. He looked up, his eyes afraid now. He was gasping for breath, and I could see that he hadn't got long left. "You should have stayed away from Juliana, my wife." His eyes widened for a moment and then rolled back as he lost consciousness. It would take him another 10 or 15 minutes to die, and I used that time to make sure there was nothing in the room that would indicate anyone else other than him had been here. I turned the television on, but low, and moved the meal that room service had brought in front of him. When his body was found, it would appear that he had simply had a fatal heart attack whilst eating his dinner and watching TV. Since he was already on blood pressure medication, I was confident that even if they did a full autopsy, they would find enough heart disease to explain the heart attack, especially as he had been using Viagra also, a definite no-no. I checked him again and found he was indeed dead, then checking the corridor outside was clear. I put the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door handle and returned to my room. It was just after 5:30 p.m. the next day when Juliana called me. "Hey, babe, how was today?" she asked chirpily. "Remarkably good. I resolved one of the outstanding issues, and I am confident I can resolve the last outstanding issue. Listen, I have had an idea. Since this is my last trip out, why don't we fly down to the coast for the weekend? I can meet you at the airport and we can celebrate for the weekend, or maybe even turn it into a longer vacation. I'm sure you have some vacation time owed, but even if not, just tell them you are going. It's not like you need the job." I laughed. Juliana laughed too. "Sounds like a great idea. I'll speak to Barry tomorrow and see what he says. I'll call you tomorrow night, and we can book the flights." "Perfect. So what you up to this evening?" I asked. "Same old. I have some stuff to catch up on, and I'm binge watching. It's really good. Isn't that about a woman having affairs? I hope you are not getting any ideas. She laughed again. It's getting me revved up for when I can get to you again, she said. I watched the time, knowing she thought she had a dinner reservation for 7, and it would take her at least 40 minutes to get there. Listen, babe, the oven just beeped so my dinner's ready. I'll speak to you tomorrow, okay? She said. Okay, enjoy your dinner and your cheating, I said. Bye, babe, love you, she said. I hung up. It was 8:30 when I heard knocking on Peter's hotel room door. Since I had put the Do Not Disturb sign up, the maids hadn't gone in to service the room, and I guessed that Juliana had gone to the restaurant, waited, and had come to see why she had been stood up. The knocking came again. 20 minutes later, I heard the beep of the lock, and the door opened. A hotel employee came in, followed by Juliana. When they found Peter slumped over, his face in the congealed remains of last night's dinner, the employee rushed over to him. Juliana just stood in the doorway regarding the scene. Is he dead? She asked. The hotel employee felt for a pulse, but it was fairly obvious that he was dead. His body was stiff. Yes, he is dead. Without a word, Juliana turned and left the room. By the time the employee realized she had gone, she was already in the lift, and she left the hotel. The police and EMTs were called, and after poking around the room for a while, they found his medication. The EMTs said that he had had a fatal heart attack given his medical condition and how they had found him. The police talked to the hotel employee who told them that they had entered the room at the behest of a woman who had come to visit the man, and they had found him. He didn't know the woman, but had seen her earlier in the week. She had visited previously. The man, however, had been to the hotel before and had several female visitors. The employee thought they might be escorts, but had said nothing as the man tipped well and they were discreet. After everyone left, I went and retrieved my surveillance equipment. I packed up my gear and, in the morning, I checked out. In the car park, I removed the GPS from Peter's car, which was still parked there. I collected Juliana from the airport on Saturday morning, and we drove to the villa I had rented. She squealed happily when she looked around and saw the private pool with its loungers and said, "I'm going to get changed." "Can we have a few minutes to chat first, Jules?" I asked. Her head snapped round to look at me. "You know I don't like you to call me that," she said. "Why not? You didn't seem to mind when Peter used it?" She paled, but decided to brazen it out. "Who's Peter?" she said. "You know, Peter, the insurance agent. The one you have been intimate with for the last 4 months. The one you were with on Monday night when you said you were so tired that you fell asleep and didn't call me. I don't know who you have been talking to or what you have heard, but," she began. I placed an 8x10 picture on the table between us. It was the one I had taken at first, through my scope with her on her back, her eyes wide, and her mouth in that perfect O. She sank down into her chair. "Oh," she said. "Oh, is that all you got? Oh?" She shrugged. "How long?" I asked. She looked at me levelly. "About 4 months. I take it he wasn't the first?" "Do you really want to do this?" she asked. "Do what? Find out the truth about my wife? Insults? Really? Are you that juvenile? Go on then, get it out of your system. Call me names. Maybe you can find something original to call me and impress me. But before you start, there is something I would like you to know." "And that is?" "Why I did it," she said. I started to say that she did it because she was but then I stopped myself and indicated for her to carry on. "We have been married a long time, haven't we?" she asked. I nodded. "Can you tell me on average how many times a week we have intimacy?" she asked. I thought back. "Well, it's fallen off as we got older," I started, but she interrupted. "Has it?" "Yes, initially we had intimacy every day, sometimes twice or more in a day. But once we got over that youthful exuberance, We averaged at least every other day, sometimes more. The intimacy was and still is wonderful, and you are still the best lover I have ever had. But then you went on your business trips, sometimes for up to a month at a time. I was used to getting laid almost daily, and then you were expecting me to go without for weeks. I tried some DIY, even got myself toys, but it wasn't the same. It didn't satisfy the need. One night, I had decided that since you weren't here and I couldn't get it, I would go to the gym and work off some tension. I was so horny I must have attracted half the men in there. They were like dogs in heat, and yes, I ended up going home with one of them. I had found a way to satisfy the need that you had created in me. Oh yes, I was guilty the next day, scared that you would find out and that you would be hurt and divorce me. When you came back from your trip, I practically raped you every day for a week trying to make it up to you, making up for something you didn't even know about. Even then, I knew that the next time you went away, it would happen again. And it did. After a while, I decided to embrace the new normal, but I needed to put in place some safeguards, so I created some rules. Firstly, I would never do it when you were home. Not because I thought you would catch me, but because you were always my first and best lover. I didn't need anyone else if you were here. Secondly, I never brought anyone back to our home. I would never disrespect you by having another man in your bed. For the same reason, I would never let any of my other lovers disrespect you. It seems that some men get pleasure from denigrating the husbands whose wives they were with. If any of them started talking badly about you, I stopped it. I refused to see them again and have even kicked some out of bed for doing it. Thirdly, I got regular STD testing. I didn't want to pass anything on to you. And before you say it, it wasn't just because that would get me caught. I didn't want to put you at risk that way. I also made doubly sure that I couldn't get pregnant. I used an IUD and had a contraceptive implant. When we were ready to have children, I stopped. I have copies of the DNA tests for the children for you to see if you want proof. I knew that it was possible you may find out and that you would question the parentage of the children. And yes, that means that I have been doing this for all the time we have been together. You got me so hooked, I just couldn't do without it. A day or two was fine, but anything more than that, I had to have some relief. That is all it was, scratching an itch. I never had any feelings for any of them. They were flesh toys as far as I was concerned. The only person I have ever loved and been in love with is you. When you told me that this was going to be your last trip, I was overjoyed. Finally, I could have you at home. And to myself, I could stop having to find second-rate substitutes. I wouldn't need them, because I would have the best one at home with me all the time. My days of having to settle for second best were over. It seems rather ironic that what was perhaps my last time with another man would be the time I got caught. Your last time? I said. Those pictures were taken Monday. You said you couldn't go without for more than 2 days, so are you expecting me to believe that you didn't go out the rest of the nights? What about Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? She laughed a little. Tuesday, he called me to say he was back at his hotel, but he started bad-mouthing you, so I told him that we were done and I wouldn't meet him again. He called back a little later to apologize, and I forgave him, but told him he was done for that night, and I would see him Wednesday. He said he would take me out to dinner by way of apology. So that call that came in when we were talking on Tuesday, that wasn't your mom? For the first time, she had the decency to look guilty. No, it wasn't. I hated lying to you. Not enough to not do it, I said. Her eyes widened. Wait, you called me Jules on that call. I remember thinking it strange. You knew then, she asked. I was sent the pictures on Tuesday morning. There were some transcripts of previous calls included. She sighed again. I'm so sorry you had to find out like that. It must have been horrible. Let's not get sidetracked. You didn't sleep with him on Tuesday, but what about the rest of the week? I asked. I wanted to see how she had been affected by his death. Wednesday he was supposed to meet me for dinner, she began. You mean when you were supposed to be binge-watching on TV? I asked, with some irony. I really have been watching it, and it is good. I just didn't watch it that night. And no, it never gave me any ideas. As stupid as it sounds, and please don't get angry when I say this, in my mind, I wasn't cheating. I was just getting a physical need met. To me, it was like perhaps going to lunch with a friend. I needed to eat. You weren't there to keep me company, so I went with a friend. I know this may be hard for you to accept, but this is exactly how I viewed, and to some extent still view what I was doing when I was with other men. And you may notice I never said I was making love. I never did that with anyone but you. You are stalling. Are you trying to avoid telling me what you got up to on Wednesday? Not at all. As I said, we were supposed to meet for dinner, but he never showed up. I sat in the restaurant for 45 minutes, and I have to say I was pissed. I have never been stood up before. So I decided I would go to his hotel. When I got there, he didn't answer the door, but I knew he was in the hotel because his car was in the car park. I got the floor manager to go in, and we found him face down in a steak dinner, dead as a nit. According to the EMTs, he was on medication for blood pressure, but the stupid fool was taking Viagra as well, which you should apparently never do. He must have had a massive heart attack. At least he didn't die while being with you. That would have been much more inconvenient, I said. Oh, shit, I never thought of that. That would definitely have raised a ruckus. His poor wife would have found out. I think she already knew. I suspect she sent me the pictures. Juliana nodded. So at least I don't need to ask if you are going to see him again, I commented, and she smiled wryly at me. I won't apologize for what I did, she said. It was something I needed to do. I am really sorry for hurting you, though, and how you found out. I was counting the days until you were not going on trips anymore so that I wouldn't have to do it anymore, but I knew that as long as you were going on trips, it would keep happening. All I could do was to minimize any fallout and hope that if you ever found out, your love for me would be strong enough for you to understand. Why didn't you come and talk to me? We could have figured something out. I could have done something different, even taken you with me on my trips. In my heart, I knew that was nonsense. I could never have taken her with me, but I needed to understand. I didn't want to be that wife, the nag that demanded you provide a lifestyle and then complained about the way you went about it. You loved your job and we had a great life together. I didn't plan to do this, I kind of fell into it, and by that time it was too late to take it back. I looked at her for a long time, thinking. So, what happens now? She asked. I stood and went into the kitchen of the villa and opened a bottle of wine, pouring us each a glass. I brought the bottle back to the table with me. I handed Juliana a glass and sat wearily down in my chair, downing half my wine in a single swallow. I don't know. This is just so much to think about. We have been together for so long, and I thought that you loved me as much as I loved you. Yes, we had a great intimate life, and yes, we had intimacy a lot. But you were not alone in suffering when I went away. I also went without intimacy for weeks, or even up to a month at a time. Yes, there were opportunities for me to have lunch with other women when I was away, but I never did. I stayed faithful to our vows. I didn't even have toys. I had to rely on the old faithful, I said, waving my hand. I don't understand how you can be so overcome by your need that you would betray everything we had together, or promises, our vows. For what? Just to get laid? Are you going to claim intimacy addiction? Do we need for you to see a counselor? She opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. Please, I let you speak. At least, do me the courtesy of listening to me for a while. I leaned across and refilled her wine glass, topping up my own. I have so many questions. How can you dissociate intimacy and love so easily? Everything I have read says that it's men who do that, not women. That women need to have love to have good intimacy. And if that is true, and you are not lying about there being no love, then that means that you were risking everything for bad intimacy. How do you think that makes me feel? You also said that you couldn't go without intimacy for more than a couple of days at a time. So what happens as I get older? It's well known that men slow down as they get older, and some women get a boost to their drive as they get older. Is that what I have to look forward to? Am I going to come home to find some guy with you when I can only manage to get it up twice a week because that is not enough for you? How can I look myself in the mirror each morning with anything resembling respect, knowing that for all our married life you have been holding me with other men? There must have been dozens, if not hundreds, over the years. Also, you say that you got regularly tested, but what use is that? You could have gotten infected and passed it on before any of your tests came back. You could have passed anything on to me, even HIV. That thing takes months to be detectable. You could have killed us both. Where would our kids have been then? Her face twitched, and she rubbed at her left arm absently. I smiled at her gently. Peter was a piece of shit. But I think in the end he was developing feelings for you. He told me that he would even cancel on his other mistresses if you called to say you were available. What? When did you speak to Peter? She asked. Oh, he and I had a little chat the night he died. You see, I was a little upset at seeing you being with that creep, so I decided to make sure that it wouldn't happen again. Her face was flushed now, and I could see that the pain was starting to develop in her chest. What did you do? She asked. Same thing I just did to you. I snarled. I killed the cheating bastard. Say hello from me when you get to hell. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.